everyone, it's I, Wacky Anime What If here to present you with What If Issei Had the Anime System. Let's go ahead and get into this. Currently, Issei Hyodo is taking his final breath while watching this man with wings that look like an angel but are pitch black, just like his soul, grabbing his mom and dad, lifting them up in the air right in front of him, while squeezing the life out of them, while they look at Issei in tears, as Issei is wondering, why are they crying for him? They're gonna die. But then he looks down and thinks, oh, that's why, while he sees a giant hole in his chest. And he said, that's why I don't feel the pain, as he falls on the ground when he was trying to get up. He immediately tries to get up again with all of his strength, but he can't do anything. He's forced to watch as this man snaps both of their necks right in front of him, snaps his mother's first, while his dad screams in anguish, screaming her name and the name of his son. But immediately he joined afterwards when he heard the sickening crack and the sickening snap, and Issei is just staring at the murderer with hatred in his eyes, his blood running cold, and he screams out, "I'll get you. I'll make sure of that." And right when he says that, the man just says, "Oh, you won't," and throws a spear made of light directly through his head. And right when that happens, he falls to the ground and starts to scream out in anguish and pain for a few seconds, but then everything goes to black. And he can hear a voice while everything's fading. Do you desire power? What do you want to do? What are your regrets? What is your goal? And Issei says, my goal is revenge. And it's not a goal. It's going to happen. It's not a goal. It's not a dream. It's my envisionment of the future, is what he says. Before the system says, answer is appropriate. You shall now gain the power of the anime system. While Issei just says, am I going to be one of those protagonists that gain a system? This is going to be fun. He says before thinking about his mom and dad, and says, I hope that they are good in the afterlife. I guess I'll be joining you since I'm really delusional right now. While the system says, host is being revived. And after he falls unconscious, the system says, host is being given base skills. Rolling gotcha. Immediately, Issei wakes up a few hours later. Right when he wakes up, he hears a voice in his head. He's on a bed, and he looks out the window and sees that there's apparently a city. This is a different city from where he's used to. It's not the town of Kyo. It's not near Kyohai at all. When he looks out of the window, he sees this town that's very colorful and vibrant. He swore he saw it from an anime before. He notices that every single person there is quite vibrant and colorful. Their hair colors are different. Some of them are wearing weird clothes. For example, someone has a pompadour. Who has a pompadour nowadays? Issei gets out of the house and starts to investigate. He hears a voice in his head saying, have you woken up, user? While immediately Issei says, who's there? He jumps and sees no one, and he thinks, maybe I'm going crazy. While the voice says, you're not going crazy, but you might be a little stupid considering I told you before that you're gaining a system. Issei immediately said, wait, that was real? While the voice says, yes, it's as real as the fact that you get no bitches. And immediately Issei says, hey, I do, before he just slumps down and says, I don't. While the system immediately pops up a window in front of him, and it shows a face that just had a depressed face and says, don't worry, you might be able to get some. Also, you get your gotcha ticket. Immediately Issei asks, what's a gotcha ticket? The system explains the rules of the system. The system says that he's been teleported into a different world to train. This will happen from time to time, and he's given gacha tickets. They give him as much skills as he wants from different animes. He needs to roll the gacha ticket to be able to get something. It will either correlate with this world or another one. Immediately Issei says, alright, so how do I use it? And he says, just scream out gacha ticket spin, and the number of tickets you want to spin. Issei says, gacha ticket spin 1. Immediately, a slot machine appears. He presses the button, and it starts to circle around different skills. He sees Sunshine, he sees Stand, he sees The World, he sees King Crimson, he sees Commandments, and he sees Dragon Slayer. It's rolling through all of these, but then it lands on Mystery Stand. Immediately, Issei's wondering, what's a stand? The system pops up again and says, a stand is a manifestation of your fighting spirit. Immediately, Issei says, oh, that's what it is. I still don't understand. All of a sudden, he says, oh, also, you're going to be in a pain for a little bit. An arrow's going to come out of nowhere and probably shoot you. Immediately, Issei says, wait, what? Before an arrow comes out of nowhere and shoots him right in the dick. And he's like, why the dick, though? He falls to the ground. And immediately the system starts laughing his ass off and says, no, it was supposed to go towards your chest or something, but apparently it misfired, and this is hilarious. And it starts laughing at its host's displeasure, while the host says, fuck you, while the system says, I know you want to. And he says, not that way, and he just goes to sleep. Wakes up a few hours later, he gets up, and says, so, system, is there any quests or anything? Well, the system says, quests are being generated currently. Quest generated. Insult guy with the pompadour hair. Insult his hair. Immediately, Issei says, oh, that sounds easy, before the system does a horrifying laugh, a sinister laugh, and immediately Issei says, I have a bad feeling about this. He walks outside of the house, sees a bus stop, and sees a guy with a pompadour. He's like, I guess that's my target. Walks up towards him and says, hey, your hair looks stupid. And right when he says that, this man walks towards him and says, oi, don't make fun of my hair. And he says, your hair looks like one of those cheesy biker gangs. And also, why do you look like some guy who has a stick up their ass? Immediately when he says this, the guy says, you're about to get destroyed in every way. And immediately Issei says, yeah, bring it. And right when he says that, he sees a ghost thing beside him. He's like, what the fuck is that? And then Josuke says, well, it's this. Dora. And all of a sudden, you can see like 12 pages of Dora. And then Issei, right when he hears Dora, he's like, Dora the Explorer. And immediately gets barraged by Crazy Diamond. And Issei remembers, wait, this is JoJo's. That's Josuke! You evil-ass system! Is what he screams out while the system pops up a screen and has a laughing emoji face and says, ha ha, I can't believe you insulted Josuke. But anyway, quest complete. Immediately after, Josuke whoops his ass with a barrage and he flies towards a fountain, breaks through the fountain, and literally lands all the way into a rock, causing a crater. And the worst part is, when he falls down, he looks like Krillin. He looks like the Krillin pose. No, the Yamcha pose. After the Cyberman. And immediately he says, now I know how Yamcha feels. While he says this, the system says, nah, Yamcha feels way worse than you. And Issei says, true that. And he gets up and he looks at Josuke and says, sorry about making fun of your hair. I was dared to do so. While Josuke says, oh, I'll let it slide, but if you make fun of my hair again, then you're gonna go into the hospital. Immediately, he walks up towards him closer, and Issei's getting more intimidating, thinking he's about to send him to a hospital right now. But he just punches him over and over, and Issei's bracing for impact, but he's just healed. And he looks at him and says, your name's Josuke, right? While Josuke says, how do you know my name? While Issei says, the reason why I know your name is because immediately the system pops up and says, rule number 1, you're not able to tell others that their world isn't actually an anime. or fiction? Immediately Issei questions in his head, why not? While immediately the system says, because if you do, then they'll most likely end up realizing this and the whole world will break apart. Because you're talking to the main character of this arc of JoJo's. And if he realizes this, then everything's going to be breaking and shattering. And he's going to be wondering if anything matters. Wouldn't you if you were a fictional character? And immediately Issei says, yeah, I would. And he says, oh yeah, you are a fictional character also. Apparently your anime is High School DXD. While Issei says, I'm not an anime. While the system says, yeah, you are. He's like, no, you're not. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. While Josuke is just seeing the screen, and he's like, is that your stand? While Issei says, what's a stand? And then he remembers what the system told him before. He's like, yeah, no, this is a system. It apparently gives me powers and stuff after I do quests, and one of its quests was to make fun of your hair. Very big mistake. While Josuke just laughs and puts his hand behind his head and says, hey, sorry about that, but anyway, want to go get something to eat, I guess? I can invite Koichi later, I guess, is what he thinks in his head. They walk off and they go into Tony's. Right when they go into Tony's, they sit down, and Josuke says, don't worry, I'll pay for the food. Tony comes out and says, here you go. He gives both of them spaghetti, and immediately Issei says, is this spaghetti hot at all? While Tony says, yes, it's quite hot. While Issei says, I don't like hot food. And he's like, oh, I heard that this spaghetti makes people eat it, even if it's hot. Immediately Issei says, that's not true. He starts sniffing it, and he says, I don't need it. I don't need it. In his head, before he screams in his head, I need it. He literally just puts his head all the way down into the spaghetti and starts like slurping the entire thing up. And immediately, everyone that's in the restaurant looks at him and says, what the fuck was that? And then he has the face like, I do not regret doing this. He slurps off the entire thing of spaghetti. He says, that was so fucking good. While Josuke just looks at him and says, are you an animal? And Issei says, I'm not an animal. I'm only the animal in the bed with the ladies. And immediately when he says that, the system literally pops up and says, psych! While Issei says, you just can't let me have this, can you? And the system says, nope, I cannot. That's where I'm going to end What If Issei Had the Anime System. Sorry if it's short, but I didn't have that much of ideas for this. I hope you all like it. And if you don't really like it that much, I might do a redo later on if it gets enough comments to be done into a redo.